Less than 24 hours after that, there was an attack that occurred in Iran. So, if you haven't seen the headlines just yet, don't know where you are in the world, but obviously we've had the U.S. and Israel start to attack Iran, and it it actually kind of ties in a little bit because it was kind of like rumored that Anthropic's AI models were technically used a part of this attack, which would only make sense if the government was using Anthropic in any way. I'm sure that AI is used throughout many different aspects of any mission that's occurring at this point. And, a lot of people are trying to figure out, okay, well, why did this really happen? Why is the US and Israel attacking Iran? And why are they doing it right now? Leonard Ork brought it up. This whole nuclear enrichment thing doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. The US has been saying that they've had nuclear weapons coming the next week for 40 years or something he mentioned throughout our discussion today. Um, and it comes up in this article here as well because last year, the Department of War actually did a strike on Iran, and they actually carpet bombed, or excuse me, bunker bombed their facilities. And when that happened, I'm trying to find it in here. A Defense Intelligence Agency assessment from last year indicated that Tehran would not have intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of reaching the U.S. until 2035. That was after the strikes that the U.S. had. So it was kind of like, okay, well, so what was this all about? And I'll very quickly dive into what I'm seeing and things that are relevant to the situation. So the Iranian supreme leader, by the way, he is gone. Um, Trump had some kind words for him about the impact that he had on society. If you missed that, that was something that occurred there as well. But the big thing that even the big time news is starting to talk about now is talking about the oil situation. Five charts here from Politico that show China's oil dilemma after U.S. strikes. So essentially, Iran and, as we heard about earlier this year, Venezuela export most of their crude oil to China. So for Iran, it was 87% of their crude oil exports go to China annually. And for Venezuela, 55% of all of their exports are going to China. And obviously, the United States has had an interest in Venezuela over the past couple of months. And for Iran, they have potentially created an entire disruption of the whole region, leading to the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard about all of this by now, right? 20% of the world's oil is moving through the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran is very adamant about making sure that nothing goes through there. They have closed down the Strait of Hormuz by basically starting to attack container ships that are coming through. So they're like, okay, I'm serious. Don't send your ships through here. We're not having it.
Mhm.
So quickly here, could the U.S. be also making a targeted move toward China? Right? Are they kind of coming at China here? So I wanted to give some stats, some data around what to look at for energy consumption inside of China. You can see here that they mostly rely on coal, but about 20% of their energy consumption is coming from oil. About 45% of that oil is coming from the entire region of the Middle East. A lot of that and most of that is flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, another piece of this to understand is that the electricity piece, because of the fact that natural gas can also be used for electricity. So, in this energy consumption graph, you can see not much of their gas is the total energy consumption. Now, when you look at the electricity production by source, you can also see that gas does not play that large of a role. And what this kind of points to here is that China has been continuing to diversify its energy and electricity sources for decades now.
Mhm.
And because of this, right, an incident like what's occurring now is not going to have as big of an impact on China as you would want to see, but or is as you might expect, is what I was trying to say there. But it is worth pointing out that the oil piece could have an impact on China for sure. Now, I'm going to quickly walk through because this has continued to develop. So I want to catch everybody up to what's happened also in the last 24 hours. So, over the last 24 hours, you had a U.S. embassy get shut down after an attack. Israel has staged an incursion in Lebanon. And what happened here was, I believe, Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, the U.S. embassy was actually hit. Um, so excuse me, the U.S. has shut its embassies in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Beirut amid drone attacks as Iran retaliates across the Middle East. I'm sorry because right now I don't have it right here in this article, but there was a U.S. embassy that was hit. I got to remember which country it was actually in. So give me just a second right here. Okay. So I believe it was actually the Saudi. Yeah, it was the one in Riyadh in Saudi that was hit. Um, and so, uh, yeah. So the whole thing that's going on in the moment at the moment is people are talking about the fact that um, missile defense systems are extremely expensive, right? So it's millions of dollars to shoot these missile defense systems up, but these drones that Iran is sending out are like $50,000 a pop. Okay, so uh, this is tactical warfare of like, well, how many of these $1 million missiles are you going to send after these different drones that are coming out in the sky? And is that an economically beneficial thing? And then eventually you also just run out of defense, right? So what Iran's strategy has been to use as much of the things that they don't care about, these little 50K drones coming in, to wear out all of the missile defense systems that these
Mm.
countries all have in the US defense systems, and then start to deliver the real payloads, right? The big bombs that they might want to sit through, or whatever thing that's going to actually have some real impact and destruction. So that's that. Now, the latest on what is the actual development here, like what's happening? Well, there's been some tough stuff going on. So this guy, Big Surge, does a really good job of breaking down the situation because, when the US goes out and completely just takes out the leader of a country, that creates a massive issue because now there's no central command.
Mhm.
So, let me read this really quickly. This guy says it's a very weird war. Iran prepared for decapitation strikes by pre authorizing field commanders to retaliate at will. You have the Iranian foreign minister admitting that military units are mostly out of command at the moment. So, in a sense, Iran turned itself into a giant bomb, primed to detonate when it got hit. The Iranian military is essentially weapons free, which makes it hard for them to coordinate or mass strikes. It also makes them unpredictable and difficult to control. On the other hand, you have the United States pursuing contradictory war aims. The White House seems to want to negotiate, but decapitation leaves you with nobody who is clearly empowered to negotiate. Since Iran's military is basically emptying the clip without any central direction, it's not even clear that a ceasefire could be implemented by Iran if they wanted it. Trump explicitly said that the people they expected to take in charge in Tehran are now gone. It's all a recipe for maximum chaos with few breaks. The U.S. has to commit to throw weight game either until Iran's strike capability is completely degraded or until Tehran reasserts central control and can submit to some sort of negotiated ceasefire. The latter doesn't seem likely. So, just to fully submit what's happened here, uh, there was apparently a strike from Israel that struck the embassy, the assembly of experts building in Iran. So this is literally, there was an election happening where they were trying to put together, okay, who's going to be the next leader, and they just bombed the whole thing. So you're talking about tens, dozens of people that would have potentially been the next in line, right? Imagine
Mhm.
you just take the Capitol building in the United States and you blow up all the senators, right? It's like, okay, well, there's no way that you get
Mhm.
back to having someone who can actually be in charge and lead the way forward. So now all of this stuff, guys, is going to be really tough to actually verify the veracity of all of these statements and everything that's happening because of the fact that we know that during these times you see the most propaganda.
There's so much.
But these are the things that are being reported as the official stories for now.
Yeah, anything that we're saying here and anything we ever say in any of our episodes, always like double, triple fact check because at the end of the day, we're all using the same tools and no one's fully immune to them.
Yes. The only thing that I did have was I had a friend who, well, I mean, he's still there. He is in Iran, and he's been giving me just a little bit of information that he's had,
Wow.
which during the protest was very helpful because I mean, at that time there was also reports of them having shut down the internet and things of that nature, and he was kind of just walking me through the fact that people were kind of disappearing in the streets, essentially. But so crazy situation. He is very seems to be pleased with what's happening. He wanted to kind of, well, he told me, he was like, look, yes, we understand that this is bad. Kind of like the same thing that happened in Venezuela. They were like, yeah, we understand this isn't great. This doesn't look great. It's not necessarily the answer, but there is some positive sentiment around the fact that at least this guy who has for sure been terrorizing this country for so long is not there anymore. So now this is one particular person's perspective from what I
Mhm.
see. A lot of people are calling this whole thing propaganda to see these people out in the streets celebrating and whatnot. Hey, you made it to the end of the clip. That means you're probably enjoying this. And if so, Just know that you can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to see the full version of this episode, you can click the link in the description down below. Otherwise, YouTube thinks that you will enjoy this next.